Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here as we talk about all of our favorite things, movies, movie news, a little bit of television entertainment as well, all the types of stuff we like to talk about. And we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, too, today. Robert De Niro, there's some rumors going around that he may be joining Martin Scorsese's Joker film that's got Joaquin Phoenix in it. John Bernthal looks like he's coming back to Walking Dead. Ant-Man and the Wasp, we now know when the reviews are going to lift, but before we get to any of that, let's go right off the top with this. As many of you know, there's a brand new Creed movie coming, Creed 2, and they just released the first poster. And our first look at the poster looks a little something like this. I dig it. It's very simple. It's a very simple little poster. Michael B. Jordan looks amazing as Adonis, so he looks great. He got himself into fantastic shape. He's going to be back now. Of course, it's him. Sylvester Stallone's back as well. We know Ivan Drago is going to be back with his son and all that kind of stuff. Now, the film opens on November 21st. They just finished wrapping, so they're heavy in post-production right now. Now, we also, on top of the poster, we got our first look at the new synopsis. And it's very, very similar to the previous one they put out. But here's what the new Creed movie is looking like. Life has become a balancing act for Adonis Creed. Between personal obligations and training for his next big fight, he's up against the challenge of his life. Facing an opponent with ties to his family's past only intensifies his impending battle in the ring. Rocky Balboa is there by his side through it all. Together, Rocky and Adonis will confront their shared legacy, question what's worth fighting for, and discover that nothing's more important than family. Creed 2 is about going back to basics to rediscover what made you a champion in the first place and remembering that no matter where you go, you can't escape your history. I am very excited. Now, like most of you guys, absolutely loved and adored the first Creed film. It was a pleasant surprise. And I'll be honest with you, I was not against the film, but I questioned whether or not doing a Creed movie with, you know, Apollo's son and all that. I questioned whether or not that was even a good idea. Then I saw the movie, and like a lot of you, I was completely blown away by it. Again, nice first poster, nothing mind-blowing or anything like that, but for a first little tease poster, kind of just announcing to the world, hey, this movie's coming, it's not a bad little poster, to be honest with you. All right, with that out of the way, let's get things going now with today's movie news feed. First up, as most of you know, the next film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Ant-Man and the Wasp, is set to hit theaters on July 6th, at least in North America. The World Cup really screwed it up for our fellow UK film fans. Sorry, guys. We've been getting a lot of questions about when the reviews for the film will start airing, and we can tell you that the review embargo for the movie lifts next Wednesday on June 27th in the morning. However, the film does start screening for some critics later this week. I'm seeing it on Friday, for example, and there is no social media embargo, which means you can expect to start seeing Twitter reactions to the film before the weekend, and then the full review will be coming on the 27th. The official synopsis for the film reads like this. From the Marvel Cinematic Universe comes a new chapter featuring heroes with the astonishing ability to shrink. Ant-Man and the Wasp. In the aftermath of Captain America: Civil War, Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, grapples with the consequences of his choices as both a superhero and as a father. As he struggles to rebalance his home life with his responsibilities as Ant-Man, he's confronted by Hope Van Dyne, played by Evangeline Lilly again, and Dr. Hank Pym, once again played by Michael Douglas, with an urgent new mission. Scott must once again put on the suit and learn to fight alongside the Wasp as the team works together to uncover secrets from their past. I am so excited about this movie because look, the first Ant-Man, first of all, why would you even make an Ant-Man movie? I mean, on the surface, it's kind of a dumb decision, and yet the first Ant-Man comes out and it's wonderful. The casting here of Paul Rudd just made the movie. And of course, you got Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas. And the chemistry actually between Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd, I thought was really good and kind of one of the stronger points of the film. But the humor work, Michael Pena is fantastic, and I'm really excited to see where they take his character in the second one. And like I said, I'm going to see the film on Friday. I think there might be a screening or two like 1 or 2 days before that as well. So you might even see some social media reactions coming up before then. But like for myself, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'll be putting up my social media reaction to Ant-Man and the Wasp on Friday night. And then, of course, the review embargo lifts on the following Wednesday. So all the reviews are going to start hitting online at the same time. I believe the review embargo lifts on that Wednesday at 9 a.m. in the morning Pacific Standard Time. That'll be noon East Coast time. So that's when you'll get your full taste of all the reviews, but again, social media reactions, you're going to see them before the weekend. Next up, we've been talking a lot recently about actor Jon Bernthal and the impressive resume he's quietly been amassing. And given his current popularity, combined with reports that Walking Dead lead star Andrew Lincoln will be leaving the show after season 9, it shouldn't shock any of us that reports have emerged claiming that Bernthal will be returning to The Walking Dead for an undisclosed number of episodes this upcoming season. From The Hollywood Reporter, the exact circumstances of Bernthal's return remain unknown, though the decisiveness of Shane's death rules out a flesh and blood return, at least in the present timeline. As The Walking Dead frequently deals in flashbacks and even the occasional flash forward, it feels likely that Jon Bernthal will appear in a scene or a series of sequences set in the past. However, the drama has also been known to play around with reality in the form of visions and hallucination sequences. Therefore, it's entirely possible that Shane could return in that context as well. However it comes about, Shane's return is likely not going to last very long. Bernthal's role as a series regular on Netflix's The Punisher, as its star obviously, in which he plays Marvel's anti-hero Frank Castle, limits how many episodes he could appear in The Walking Dead. And look, I never want to be one of those tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists, but it is hard to imagine that Andrew Lincoln's departure from the show, at least reportedly, combine that with Jon Bernthal's current success and popularity are probably two big factors. Like, I just have a feeling this isn't just a natural part of the story. I think it's these two other factors combined were probably part of the, or at least a big part, of the decision-making process to bring Bernthal back. Now, will he come back for 1 episode, 2 episodes, maybe as many as 3 episodes? What context will it be in? Will it be the coming back to life? Is that a new twist they're taking on the zombie virus, that you actually come back to life as yourself after you die as a zombie? I think what the articles are saying and the reports are saying is probably the most likely scenario. We're probably talking about either flashbacks or hallucination, dream sequence kind of things. I don't think, considering that Shane died, then he came back as a zombie and was definitively killed again, I think all that pretty much rules out that he's coming back to life. I mean, once again, this isn't Wonder Woman where you can bring back Steve Trevor because you live in an era of Greek gods and all that kind of stuff. This is a little bit different. Is it a good move to bring him back? Oh, absolutely. It's going to get everybody talking about it. And it's probably a nice little PR move to bring this up now so people will focus less on the fact that the lead star of the series is probably going to be departing, which is not, the good news that people want to hear. Now, look, I'm not a hardcore Walking Dead fan. I keep up with the show, but I've never been a diehard fan. I like it enough for what it is, but I'm not really the person you should be asking. But from an outsider's perspective, this seems like a good move. Next up, with no less than 2 separate Joker movies in development at Warner Brothers, one in the DCEU with Jared Leto returning as his Suicide Squad incarnation of the Joker, and one being produced by Martin Scorsese with Joaquin Phoenix as the other Joker outside of the DCEU, a new rumor has started circulating that legendary actor Robert De Niro is being looked at for a supporting role in the Joaquin Phoenix film. According to the rumor, and I stress the word rumor, Robert De Niro is being looked at for a role now only being described as Murray Franklin, male, 65 to 75, Caucasian. Obviously, De Niro's involvement would be incredible, but should we believe the rumor? Well, there are some reasons why we shouldn't, and some reasons why maybe we could. Again, stressing this is rumor, but let's look at a couple of reasons why we could believe the rumor and why we shouldn't believe the rumor. Let's start with why we shouldn't believe the rumor. Number one, the reports are not coming from any reliable sources. Now, when I say reliable sources, I'm not saying that the people who are reporting this are completely unreliable. No, but when I refer to standard reliable sources, we're talking about The Hollywood Reporter, we're talking about Deadline, we're talking about Variety. We're saying things like that. These rumors are coming from much more small and pretty much unknown sources. So there's that. That doesn't mean it's not true automatically, not at all. I'm just saying that's one reason not to believe it. The other reason why you would want to be skeptical about something like this is it's a little too on the nose. Like anything that Martin Scorsese is involved with automatically has to have either Leonardo DiCaprio or Robert De Niro attached to it, right? So there's that as well. There's a little bit of a too good to be true sort of feel to it. So for all those reasons, the little too good to be true, a little bit too on the nose, the fact that it's not really coming from one of the major, more reliable sources, all these are good reasons why you should remain skeptical about it. Now, on the flip side of that coin, some reasons why you might want to give a little bit of credibility to this is, well, let's go back to the on-the-nose reason. That was one of the negatives, and look at it as a positive. Martin Scorsese is a producer on this thing. We know he likes working with Robert Redford. If they wanted to get a Robert Redford involved in this film, leveraging the fact that Martin Scorsese is a producer on it is probably a good way to do it. The second reason why you might want to give some credibility to this rumor is the sheer name, power, and cachet that comes along with the Robert De Niro. Under the new leadership of Walter Hamada may want to make a little bit of a splash in these films by bringing in more high-powered directorial names and more high-powered acting names as well. So there could be some credence to that. Again, whether this rumor is true or not remains to be seen. But I just wanted to present a couple reasons why you should be skeptical about it and why you might want to give it a little bit of consideration at the same time. And finally, as some of you may know, a Pet Sematary remake has been in the works for a while, and yesterday the directors of the new incarnation of the story took to social media to announce that the project has officially begun filming. From MovieWeb, much of the cast is yet to be announced for this new take on Pet Sematary, but Jason Clarke from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Amy Seimetz from You're Next are set to play Lewis and Rachel Creed. Jonathan Lithgow, who we recently saw in The Crown, is on board as Judd Crandall. Pet Sematary was originally a novel from Stephen King in 1983, which then came out as a film in 1989. And with the success of King adaptations recently, it really should come as no surprise that a remake of this well-known story is on its way. The new Pet Sematary is currently scheduled to hit theaters on April 5th, 2019. I really don't know what most of you think about the original Pet Sematary movie, but I just remember as a kid, it freaked me the hell out. And I think it still does to a lot of people today. And look, once again, like we said in the story, King adaptations right now are all the big rage, especially with the monster smash success of it. Everybody's looking at Stephen King adaptations at this point. And you know what? Pet Sematary is ripe for remaking. There's a lot of things you could do with the story, and there's probably a lot of the average movie-going audience today that have never actually seen the original, which is kind of unfortunate. I think there's a high probability and a good chance this one could actually exceed the original and give us another sharp King adaptation. And look, we are in the midst of a little bit of a horror renaissance these days. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit here. But this is a good one to do. The fact that it started filming on its way, coming in April, looking forward to it. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. All right, and now you guys are all caught up to date on all the stuff going on in the world of movie news. A lot of stuff there. So now let's get on to the main part of the show. And the main part of the show, of course, are our main topics as submitted by you guys. How do you submit a topic or question to be a main topic here on the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And guys, make sure you keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to the first email topic today. And the first email topic today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Levinette, who writes, I have a particular issue to which you might have some good insight. Movies are my main hobby. On a yearly basis, I see more than 100, repeat viewings not counting. My issue is that lately I cannot feel the same excitement as in the past. Like Avengers Infinity War isn't even in my top 10 movies of this year, and I used to love comic book movies. Have you ever been in a rut like this before? How did you get rid of it? All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, Livina. And here's the thing. Just because Avengers Infinity War, and I love that graphic Ray used, just because Avengers Infinity War isn't in your top 10 films of the year, well, that means there are still 10 other films that you quite like. Look, okay, here's the thing. I'm a big ice cream guy. I love ice cream. I over-love ice cream way too much, but I'm an ice cream addicted. Now, I also really kind of like my basic ice creams. I like vanilla. I like, caramel swirl. I like cookies and cream is a huge one. Right now, my go-to ice cream of choice, and it has been for a few months now, is Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter. Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter right now is my go-to ice cream. But depending on when you ask me, cookies and cream will be my absolute obsession of that month or of that quarter of the year or something like that. Then if you ask me again, oh no, chocolate swirl is my favorite right now. Or if you ask me again, oh no, cookie dough is my favorite flavor of ice cream right now. It's like sometimes I'm still I'm still ice cream addicted, right? But sometimes, what our preferences do, they ebb and flow. They say, yeah, right now I'm kind of in this kind of a mood. Right now I'm kind of in this kind of mood. You know what? Right now you're just in the kind of a mood where Avengers Infinity War isn't in your top 10, but that means you got 10 other films that you are liking a lot. It's not like you should put yourself in a position for the movies you're supposed to like. No, you're a film fan, man. Just sit back and just enjoy the films as they hit you. And if that means you like certain films better than others right now, fine. if 2 years from now, you'll probably like other films a little bit better than others. That's just the way it goes. Just like kind of my obsession with ice cream. So I wouldn't worry about it. It sounds like you're still enjoying your films. Again, just because Infinity War is in your top 10 doesn't mean you don't like comic book movies anymore. It just means that right now, you've got a hankering for a certain type of flavor that may not be comic book films at the moment, but that doesn't mean it's gone. Look, right now my go-to ice cream is not cookies and cream, but it will be again. I guarantee. I know myself well enough to know that. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it at all. All right, let's go back to our next question. And our next question today comes to us from Marcus Hill, who writes, "Love the show." Well, thank you so much, Marcus. "With the mega success of Incredibles 2, do you think Brad Bird would be willing to start working on Ratatouille 2? Because I know there were reports that he was no longer wanting to do sequels and would rather focus on new projects." Okay, first of all, I love Ratatouille. I think it is one of the best Pixar films. And is certainly, while people beloved Ratatouille, I think in the pantheon of Pixar films, it's an underrated masterpiece. I love this film. It works on a humor level. It works on an emotional level. It works on a narrative level. It's a fantastic movie. I just love this film. Now, that being said, with the success of that, would Brad Bird want to go back to Ratatouille 2? I doubt it for a couple of reasons. Number one, he does seem a little resistant to sequels. That's fine. Incredibles was an exception. The other reason, though, is this. Whereas The Incredibles completely left itself open for a sequel. I mean, the cliffhanger of the first Incredibles was basically screaming in our faces, there's going to be more Incredibles movies. Like the end of the first Incredibles with the Underminer camp, that just screamed more Incredibles movies, right? And there's been this huge outcry for an Incredibles 2 for over a decade. Ratatouille is a little bit different. Ratatouille, as magnificent as it is, it never felt like part one of an ongoing story. It never felt like there was a next chapter to tell. You could still do it and revisit these characters, absolutely. But there's not that narrative call like there was for Incredibles 1 to get an Incredibles 2. The other thing is this, is that there has been a huge cry for Incredibles 2 for a long time. I've never really sensed amongst the average movie-going audience, and even some of the hardcore movie-going audience, this desperate cry out for Ratatouille 2. I just haven't sensed it. So I don't think there's been a desire for it. Also, narratively, it didn't open itself up or suggest that there's going to be continuing stories of it, even though you could if you want to. And believe me, if Brad Bird said he was going to do an Incredibles 2, or a Ratatouille 2, I would be there opening day for sure. But I think for those reasons, it's probably unlikely that we're going to get a Ratatouille 2 from Brad Bird or Pixar, or from anybody for that matter. All right. Let's go on to the final emailed in topic today. And the final emailed topic today comes to us from Lacho, who writes, "Greetings, John. Been watching your show for years." Well, thank you so much, Lacho. "Here's my question. Lately, there's been a lot of great critically acclaimed horror movies which set records at the box office with The Witch, It, Hereditary, A Quiet Place, and The Babadook, etc. With Halloween and It 2 coming up this year, do you think we are having some kind of horror renaissance?" Well, I mean, and to add on to top of those movies like, Get Out, there's that, Lights Out, or what's the horror movie that they just did? I think it's called Lights Out, where when the lights go out, if there's no light, that's when this woman appears. That was awesome. The one with Stephen Lang, where he's the blind dude in the house, that was amazing. Happy Death Day, which is kind of a horror/comedy in some way. I mean, there has been, and there's also been a lot of very trash, low-budget horror films. Let's not lose sight of that. There's been a lot of very trashy, awful, low-budget horror films out lately as well, but also some really good ones. What I think is happening here, and this excites me, and this is kind of a charge. Jason Blum and Blumhouse are not the only ones doing this. Or Blumhouse, they're not the only ones doing this, but Blumhouse is kind of like the face of this right now. This leading the charge of making low-budget films that have great experience value. You know, one of the things I always say about movies is that movies are experiential things. We go to experience something, whether it's to experience laughter, whether it's to experience excitement, whether it's to experience tension, whether it's to experience mystery, whether it's to experience fear, whether it's to experience like thought provocation, whether it's whatever. Movies are experiential things. When a movie can deliver an experience, and it's all subjective as to what you react to, but when a movie can deliver an experience for you, those become the movies that are memorable for us, right? And I think what Blumhouse has been showing Hollywood is that, you know, you can deliver experience without making it a $250 million movie. You don't need to make every movie a $195 million budget to deliver an experience. And Blumhouse has been basically their main vehicle for that has been using horror to say, hey, look, we're going to deliver an experience to our audience. And we're going to do it for like under $10 million. And our movies are going to make like $150 million. How do you like them apples? So I think we're not just seeing a little bit of a renaissance of the horror genre. I think we're seeing, thankfully, a little bit of a renaissance of filmmakers and some smaller studios understanding, you know what? To deliver good experiential stories, we don't need to spend $100 million. So I'm seeing a little bit of both of those things at play here. Now, as far as It 2 or Halloween, we don't know if these movies are going to be any good. They could be total trash. But yeah, I feel like we are experiencing a little bit of an awakening, if you will, of not just the horror genre, but of the whole ideology that movies are about delivering experiences. And if we can deliver an experience for a low budget, that's good business. So I think we're seeing a little bit of both of that along the way. And I'm, for one, I'm a big fan of that. I hope we see more of it moving forward. But again, it all depends on how good do these filmmakers. It doesn't matter if you come up with a story. It doesn't matter if you make it for low budget. If it's not a good movie and a good story and delivers a good experience, then it won't matter. But I hope this sort of thing succeeds because I'd love to see Hollywood getting back to making more lower budget films that deliver big experiences because I think they can do it. All right. With that out of the way, I'm going to go over take some live questions. Now, we had a little bit of a technical issue earlier today, but not before a bunch of people did have a chance to send in their live questions. So we're going to go to those live questions right now that were sent in. And the first one comes to us from Kyle B, who writes, John Bernthal coming to The Walking Dead in Season 9 is just more confirmation that Rick is leaving. He will probably be a hallucination or flashback in Rick's final episode. I don't know if that's more of a confirmation. I honestly don't. I think I kind of see it that understanding that we're all already kind of assuming that he is leaving. There have been a lot of reports that he's leaving, and there's been absolutely no denials about it. So it does look like he's done the show. After this season, it'll be 9 seasons. So I understand he's probably looking to move on. But it does make sense that if you're going to do that, bring in a Bernthal, that it'll get everybody excited, everybody talking, and it gets people stopping discussing the fact that Rick's leaving. Now we're talking about something else, right? So it's a brilliant PR move. So I don't know that it confirms any more than it already is that Rick's leaving the show, so much as it really just is a really smart move on their part if we're already assuming that he's gone. So that's just kind of the way I see it. All right, next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, have to ask who wins in a fight, Jack or Dom? You know what? Jack might actually be the winner. We might have finally found somebody in the movie universe who would beat Dominic Toretto in a fight, and it just might be Jack. I'm almost convinced Jack beats Thanos. Like, I'm thinking, after watching Incredibles 2, I'm thinking, if the Avengers had Jack in Infinity War, that movie would have ended a lot different. Because Jack would have just showed up, boom, and there goes Thanos. So I think that probably would have been the case. MuseTac Reviews writes, if Disney gets FX, what happens to the Alien? I think you mean Fox. If Disney gets Fox, what happens to the Alien property? Whatever they want, because I think look, there's a lot of properties that may get distributed by Fox, but aren't necessarily Fox properties. I could be wrong about this. I haven't looked it up. I think Fox, or I think Aliens does belong to Fox. Therefore, if I'm right about that, and I could be wrong, by the way, but if that's the case, and that's a big if, then if Disney gets Fox, which it may or may not, because Comcast is looking pretty strong right now, but if Disney does end up with Fox, then that means Alien would become a Fox or would become a Disney property. But also, I don't think Disney would do anything with it because the Alien property's kind of gone into the crapper lately. So I don't know that they would be rushing to do anything new. But as far as I understand, if Disney gets Fox, then that means Alien would become a Disney property. But again, I could be wrong about that. I'll have to look that up a little bit more later. All right. James Welsh writes, You said before Warner Brothers are very protective of the Batman IP. So why did they allow Batman and Robin to happen and kill the movie franchise for you? Batman and Robin, the movie that happened 21 years ago? John, you once said you didn't like blue. How come you're wearing blue? I said I didn't like blue 21 years ago. My tastes changed over 21. Okay, yes. Warner Brothers is very, very protective of the Batman property. That's why you don't see Batman popping up on all the CW shows and blah. They want to be very protective of that IP for obvious reasons. Well, why did they do Batman and Robin? Well, Batman and Robin was 21 years ago. And by the way, Batman and Robin is one of the reasons that Warner Brothers has become really protective of the Batman IP. Because they've seen what can happen when you put Batman out in trash. All right? That Batman and Robin is not the exception to it. Batman and Robin is kind of one of the causes of Warner Brothers becoming really protective of Batman. Especially then after that, once they launched the Dark Knight trilogy, and they realized, oh my God, this character is our crown jewel. This character can be our cornerstone forever if we handle the character right. Now, you can think what you want about Batman versus Superman and Justice League, but at least that was Warner Brothers trying to do something great with the character. You may have your own opinion about whether they succeeded or not, for sure, but it was at least them trying to be protective and whatever of their character and doing what they thought at the time was something really great with the character. So no, Batman and Robin is not an exception to the rule that they're very protective of. Batman and Robin is one of the causes that they've developed this philosophy that we've got to be protective. We can't let a Batman and Robin happen again. We can't sully this IP that the Dark Knight trilogy, which came later, clearly shows can be our cornerstone character for decades to come if we protect it and if we treat it right. Now, we can have different opinions about how good of a job they're doing at that, sure, but that is what they're trying, and that's why they're trying it. Geo writes, recommendation, Kodachrome. That's the one with Jason Sudeikis. It's on Netflix. It's a great film. Kodachrome, it's a Netflix gem. It stars Ed Harris, Jason Sudeikis, and Elizabeth Olsen. I think Jason is an underrated dramatic actor. Colossus. I don't think so, actually. I respect that that's your opinion. That's great. And I love Jason Sudeikis. I do not think he's underrated as a dramatic actor. I don't think he's that great as a dramatic actor. I think he is incredible as a comedic actor. I think he's one of my favorite guys to watch. By the way, there's this great little gem. I should actually do you guys know I just started a new little series called Movies to Watch, and I started off with Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. One of the ones I should do is called A Good Old Fashioned Orgy. That stars Jason Sudeikis, Lake Bell, a bunch of people from The League. And anyway, it's a low-budget comedy, but I thought it was charming and funny and hilarious. He's a terrific comedic actor. You point out Colossal. I actually thought Colossal sucked. I know a lot of people were raving about it, and by the time I watched it, I was so excited to watch it. I'm like, this movie sucks, and everybody's terrible in it. Now, Anne Hathaway's Anne Hathaway. She's going to do what Anne Hathaway does. She's amazing. She's an Academy Award winner. I honestly did not think Jason Sudeikis was all that strong in it. I really didn't. Like, during the part of the movie where he's the jovial jokey, yeah, he was Jason Sudeikis. But once it turned dark and he tried to be dramatic, I was like, this isn't working. So, anyway, whatever. He's a huge superstar. I'm a big fan of Jason Sudeikis. I just don't think he's great in dramatic stuff as well. But Kodachrome, it's a very nice little film. I'm surprised. I mean, it's difficult for a movie that's on Netflix to get a lot of attention, but Ed Harris is great in it. It is one of the stronger Jason Sudeikis performances. Elizabeth Olsen wasn't at her best in it, but whatever. It's a solid little movie. If you get a chance, listen to Geo's recommendation and go check it out. Santez Hernandez writes, question on the CRO Reboot. What CRO Reboot? I mean, at this point, with all the money spent on the pre-production and it falling apart time and time again, doesn't that inflate the budget? Yeah, I mean, they're spending, fortunately, they've never actually started shooting the movie. So in the grand scheme of things, they've been through no less than 5 leading men, no less than 3 directors. I mean, it's been just a circus show. It's just been a complete circus. But at least they've never actually started shooting. That's when the real money starts to add up. That's when the real money starts to get spent. is when you pull, 100 crew together and book locations and dates and travels and shooting and blah, blah, and you're paying salaries and all that. That's when the real money starts to bloom. Now, are you spending money on pre-production? Absolutely you are. Will that increase the budget of the film? Yes, but not anywhere near as significantly as if they had already started shooting the movie. If they had already started shooting the movie and got like a third of the way into it and then had to shut down production and then start it back up again, that would really balloon the budget. The pre-production, not as much. It's still money. It's still good money, but it's not anywhere near as the money you're spending once the cameras actually start rolling and you're bringing all the crew and you're paying all these salaries. That's when the balloon starts to budget. And so far, amidst all the tragedy of this stupid thing never getting going, at least they can look in the mirror and go, okay, well, at least we never got to the point we started rolling cameras, because then the money would have been out of control. All right, Sam Fisher writes, after binge watching Blue Bloods and looking up photos of him, I now need a Teddy Roosevelt pic starring Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck's a good little actor, by the way. Like, a lot of people just think of him as Magnum P.I. and Three Men and a Baby and whatever, the jovial, but he's actually a pretty damn good actor. And I don't care about casting people because they look like that. I've never cared about, does he look like the person? That's never been a consideration to me. I think that's the most unimportant thing of anything when casting a person. But because he's just a damn solid good actor, I would totally see that, Sam. I would totally go for a Teddy Roosevelt biopic if they announced Tom Selleck. Now, I'd also be up for 40 other talented actors, but if they said they were doing that movie and Tom Selleck was one of them, I'd be down for sure. Santez Hernandez writes, if it does inflate the budget, going back to, I think that's the same, you're the same person asking the question about, if it does inflate the budget to a huge amount of money, clearly there's no reason to push forward on this movie anymore, right? Well, again, it doesn't inflate the budget by a huge amount. However, if it was inflating the budget by a huge amount, you now got to ask yourself the question, have we spent so much money now that we will lose less? Let me start this again. Let's say you've spent $200 million already on this movie and you haven't got a movie yet. You have to ask yourself, okay, if we keep going through, spend more money and put it out into theaters, will we lose less than $200 million? Because right now, if we just don't proceed with the movie, we're out $200 million. Whereas if we proceed with the movie, we're guaranteed to lose money, but at the end of the day, we may lose less than $200 million. In that case, it would be in your best interest to proceed, spend the extra money, get the movie out in theaters, and hopefully you make enough money back that while you're still not profitable, you'll lose less than $200 million. Whereas if you just stop and give up right now, you're out $200 million. That's worse. So it really all depends. But again, the point's kind of moot because at this point, they haven't spent any, by Hollywood standards, real serious money yet on The Crow. All right, James Welsh writes, have you seen Gotti yet? Getting panned by critics. Yeah, it's got John Travolta. It's got a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I haven't seen it. I've had no desire to see it. I'm not going to see it. I still haven't seen Upgrade, for heaven's sakes. I'm not going to go see Gotti if I haven't seen Upgrade yet. Are you kidding me? So, no, I have no desire to see Gotti. I'm not even going to bother with it. I'm just not even going to bother with it. Final two questions. Sam Fisher writes, they should make a sequel to The Last Action Hero movie called The Second to Last Action Hero, where the kid, now a 40-year-old man, gets sucked into a pointless sequel made 30 years later. I mean, hey, honestly, I think more people romanticize The Last Action Hero than it really deserves. And I've heard a number of people over the years, and some whispers, about some studios talking about, hey, maybe we revisit The Last Action Hero. I don't think it would ever happen, and I think the reason why it would never happen is I honestly don't think there would be much interest at all from the average movie-going audience. So it's an interesting concept. It's a really interesting picture you painted there, Sam. I just don't think any studio would actually do it. All right, and the final question today comes to us from El Cid 0685, who writes, what does The Incredibles have that the Fantastic Four lack in terms of family superhero movies? Well, they're two completely different movies. I mean, honestly, you might as well ask, what does The Godfather have that Fantastic Four doesn't have? I mean, they're completely different movies. Yes, it's in the superhero genre, and yeah, it's about a family, but therein the similarities end. I mean, they're completely different movies in different mediums. One's animation, one's live action. I mean, you're talking about a dissection really about, the real question you're asking is, why haven't the Fantastic Four movies worked? Whereas other movies do. And that's the real question. And that's a discussion that's just too big of a topic to go into here. I mean, and a lot of people have talked ad nauseum. Look, the simple fact is this: Fantastic Four just haven't made good movies. The formula doesn't matter. It's all about execution. Just because, Incredibles is about a family of superheroes, well, that means it's like Fantastic Four. No, it's nothing like Fantastic Four. Yes, on the very thin surface, it looks the same, but they're very, very different. Why doesn't Fantastic Four work? Because they just haven't made good movies. It's all about execution, right? So anyway, but again, we're talking about an hour-long discussion we could have on this. It's not really something I could just answer in 2 minutes here. But really, the question isn't, why does Incredibles work when the Fantastic Four doesn't? The real question at the heart of that is, why hasn't the Fantastic Four movies worked? That's the bigger issue that should be discussed. But, obviously we just don't have time to do that right now and right here. Okay, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, if you haven't done so already, make sure you click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Also, guys, listen, if you are somebody who enjoys watching my shows, why don't you take a second, head on over to www.patreon.com/JohnCampea. There you get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps these shows on the air, and also the benefits of being the Patreon supporter. Much like we Star Wars Talk Tuesdays is just for our Patreon supporters. We have audio-only podcasts of the shows only for our Patreon supporters, a Facebook exclusive group for that, and a few other things more. So go check out patreon.com/JohnCampea, and maybe you'll decide to become a Patreon supporter too and be one of the people that is responsible for keeping these shows on the air. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's, of course, John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.